Well, Lori Beth, thanks so much for taking some time to hang with me today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to wake up and do this first thing. It's a wonderful way to start the day.
Yes. So you are in Hawaii, and we're in the midst of this coronavirus craziness, but yet you're kind of distant from a lot of people. You're already in social distancing where you live, ironically.
Mhm.
Tell people a little bit about where you're at and how this has impacted your life.
Yeah, sure. So my family and I live on the island of Maui. And I've been actually doing a lot of thinking about it because I'm trying to show up for people as best I can and be that calm. I feel called to be calm in all of this. And I think that I'm also in an advantage because we kind of opt out of a lot of things already and we work for ourselves. So that's staying the same. We homeschool, so then that's kind of staying the same too. Something that has changed though is I don't have a babysitter anymore. So I am kind of juggling that. And I'm also feeling this outside energy, if you will, of everyone kind of like calming down and they're not 100% sure what to do at home. And even as a person who stays at home, and I identify with those memes of like, I have lived my whole life for this moment, Um, even as an extrovert, I still super love being at home, and we've set up our life in such a way that um, we want to work for ourselves. We want to homeschool our kids, but we're still being affected by it. There it's interesting to be on an island where you have to prep for tsunamis, hurricanes, the ships being cut off, our supply lines being cut off. So we naturally have to be preppers anyway. We have to be prepared. We also have to be now we have to be prepared for this too. So, and I come from the Midwest, and there's already a little bit of prepper in me. So, being so far away from town, we live over 30 minutes away from quote unquote town. We live out in the country, and we already have to be prepared to be kind of like cut off from that because there's limited roads here, right? There's only, two roads that lead into town, three roads if you go the other way, kind of, sort of, we have very limited access to things. So we already kind of went into this knowing that this is just one of those situations we're going to have to be prepared for. It just is coming in a different form. That being said, the shelves are more empty than usual. But I don't think they're more empty for the same reasons. I mean, I can't speak for everybody on the island, but for us, we're more concerned about the supply chains being cut off.
Hmm.
And so when they're talking, this isn't just like a one-day event or like a hurricane that's going to come through or the power is going to be out or something like that. So we feel there is this slight different pressure to prepare. And I think it comes less from the outside than it does from an internal, like, oh, geez, boats better not stop coming, you know?
Hmm. Yes, yes. How long would you say you could live at your current lifestyle? Like if it were cut off.
That's a tricky question, and something that is being discussed every day here because we feel very secure in a lot of ways. We have food trees on our property, we have goats and chickens. Technically, those are also food sources. We are prepared. I feel confident that we have well over 2 months worth of food. The tricky thing comes in when we also feel responsible for other people. I actually have chills all over my body just thinking about it.
Wow.
We have aunties. There's a different sense of ohana here. We have people up the road, our elders, our aunties, that we also feel responsible for. So when we prep, we don't prep with just the five of us in mind. We prep for about 13 people.
Wow.
And that's because that's the reality of it. My best friend and her son live here. We have this extended family because we live so far away from our family.
Hmm.
We also feel responsible for them. We also have animals. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But in our business of renovating homes and selling them, I actually have a hiccup this week of not being able to list our home because the avenues through which we list it are suddenly scrambling and they're not replying to emails and they're not getting
Mm.
back. So we had planned on putting a house on the market right now,
Hmm.
and we're not necessarily able to do that. So there's a little bit of concern. Will the market crash? Will it not? Will it
Hmm.
bounce back? What are we going to do about it? So in that sense, things are different. I feel pretty good for about 2 months. and but in the same breath, it's day by day.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. But you're resourceful, right? You have a
Yeah,
lot of resources around you,
yeah.
and so we'll all find our way, right? We can all be resourceful. I think the key is,
Mhm,
I love how you described that you have other people that you want to be mindful of, and others of us may not have that particular situation, but how do we not just think of ourselves, but how do we think of other people in the process? And um, that's something that I think we all need to really think about in these moments.
mhm. I was a little torn. I'm torn by some of the messages that are coming across my social media feeds and the news media and things like that, because basically it feels like we're being asked to hold the space for everyone.
Hmm.
It's almost like we're being lectured not to just look out for ourselves.
Hmm.
Um, but I get the sense that a lot of us are doing that anyway. And I kept thinking about it of, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? And I have worked really hard to get rid of that message in my life. And so I was totally honest with myself and said, okay, the reality is I can prep for these 13 people. You
Sure,
know,
that's great.
I can hold them in that space. I can do that. And that absolutely is enough. It's enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I need to just settle into that and realize that I can't hold the space for every single person. I can't prep for every single person. So
Hmm.
I have let go of that pressure that I'm seeing over and over again of like, you must think of other people. But I have absolute faith that people are thinking of other
Hmm.
people already.
That's good. That's good. I think the challenge comes in, at least in our area in Southern California, with the amount of hoarding of
Mhm.
resources. I think that's the challenge that I have, is when seeing that, is that I'm not sure that that is thinking of others,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it's the tip of the iceberg. It feels like a bit. So I don't feel the pressure to take care of everyone, but at the same time, I think about how are our buying choices perhaps not making resources available even for the elderly, or people that are immunocompromised that can't get out. I do wonder about that, but our stores are doing a great job in even opening earlier, or saying just these
Mhm.
hours are for people who maybe need a little extra time or help or whatever. And I really appreciate that. I think that that's wonderful.
I agree with you on that. And we have Kapuna hours here. Kapuna, our elders, they're super early in the morning, but also they're reached a point where my aunties, I'm just going to call them my aunties, the older women in my life, um, didn't feel comfortable going out anymore. And so then I was tasked with doing a regular shop for a large family, plus three different aunties. And so when I would show up in the grocery store with my
You look
cart
like
full,
you're
it
hoarding.
looks like I'm hoarding. And
Yes.
so I literally felt this pressure to look around me and say, okay, I'm from a huge family, and this is for auntie number one, this is for auntie number two, and this is for auntie number three. And I felt like I stood there in line, and
You're
everything I
getting
put on the conveyor
judged.
belt, I'm like, this person has goats and they need this. This person has a wound and they need this, like I'm constantly, I felt like
That
trying to
is
justify
awkward.
myself.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
awkward.
I had
Yeah.
to negotiate eggs and explain to them that, like, I know that you're saying too, but I need to get some for my auntie and my own children with allergies. And the manager, thank God, was like, I know you,
Oh,
and I'll
good.
allow it. And I'm like, oh, thank
Good.
God. And I'm not asking for, well, I guess, and technically I am asking for special stuff, but I am also not just shopping for myself. It was totally
Yeah,
for
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. I interviewed somebody the other day who's got like 5 kids or something, and she
Yeah,
got 4 loaves of bread and I think 4 things of oat milk or something, which was just be the 4 things of bread were just for like a week for her,
it was. That's a
kids.
week.
Yeah. And they're like, you can only have two. Like, what? I'm just trying to feed my family. So yeah, it is complicated. It is very
Yeah.
complicated. Yeah, it is challenging. Well, let's
Mhm.
talk for a minute, because I know that you have just such a unique lifestyle, not only where you live, but the way that you think about motherhood, parenting, living life. I mean, you're kind of weird, Lori Beth. You're kind of just really different, right? And I like that. I don't know
Thank
why I'm
you.
attracted to weird people in my life. All my friends are like super weird. So, um, did you, when you were growing up, did you envision yourself being becoming a mother? Like, was that always like part of your thought of the future?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for your honesty. I'll take you at that as a compliment for sure. Yes, I always knew I wanted to be a mom from the very beginning. And it wasn't just the doll playing with dolls or playing with Barbies or acting things out or babysitting. It just I have always known somewhere deep inside of me that has always been my true nature. I always showed up and was like that the best babysitter, not because I was trying to be, but because I was just like, man, this is the best thing ever. I can't wait to have my own kids. Every job I ever had outside of being a barista in my early 20s always revolved around children or caring for others. And it was so soul satisfying for me. So yeah, if I had to paint a picture of my perfect life, for sure, it would be a mom of three girls, which I have, married to the man that I have, and I want all of these things. And yeah, so, but I've always known that. And it feels like a lot of buildup to this point in my motherhood journey, to the point that when Chris, my husband, and I got married, our wedding invitation said, "All the roads led to you." And like nothing felt truer than that statement of, yeah, it feels like this has been a build up to this point and it's been you the whole time. And so it's nice that we have that though for the hard times so we can fall back on that notion of, yeah, just part of the road.
Right, right. And so as you started your motherhood journey, whether it was when you got pregnant or when you had, I don't know when it happened, but when did you start to think about motherhood, perhaps in a unique way?
Sure. I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I always knew I wanted to get married, right? This is what a lot of people know. A lot of moms come into this. Not everyone, though. Some of my closest friends are like, I was thrown this motherhood thing. I did not want it, and it's harder possibly for them to figure out how to make peace with that, right? I'm not trying to make peace with something that I've always wanted. Um, I started to view motherhood differently, though, for those reasons that I always wanted to have a baby. I always wanted to get married. We got married, we had a baby, and then the messages started to roll in that this was supposed to be hard. You were supposed to not like this. And it's phrased in ways of like, it's okay if this is hard. It's okay if you don't feel this way. But there were so few messages of, it's okay if this is the best thing you have ever done. It's okay that if you wanted this, and then you got it and you still want it. So I keep hearing these. I have an episode about it and on my podcast. Episode 5 is the lie of convenience. And I feel like we're being asked to look through motherhood through the lens of convenience, like buy these things, it'll make your motherhood journey more convenient. Do this, it'll be more convenient. And then we're also kind of bombarded with the message that if something is difficult, it's suddenly hashtag inconvenient. And
Hmm.
our brains were kind of trained to want these things. You want to have babies, you want to get married for some of us. And then you're being trained to not like it, the terrible twos, the three-nagers, and all the other terrible things that are said about kids. But then if you like it, you're an oddball or you're bragging or but really for me it's peaceful. It's the motherhood that I've always wanted. So I keep my eye on the prize, and I started to drop these messages of inconvenient, or I started to look at my own language too. Am I describing my children as inconvenient? Because that's a really cruddy way to feel growing up. Me as a child, I wasn't immune to the messages that my parents presented to me or other adults. I knew if teachers liked us or not. I knew if my mom was enjoying me in that moment or not. And then we take these on and then we're asked to unpack all of this later. And so from very, very, very early on, Chris and I decided we were not going to put that heaviness on our kids.
What are
We
some
did not.
examples like of language that I may not even realize is like, I know obviously terrible twos, that's a strong one, but like, give me some other examples that people may not even realize they think about their kids in
Uh,
a negative way.
um, if their schedule gets thrown off, that's a huge one. I see people complain about this all the time. And we are living in a time where our entire schedules are thrown off. And so you're seeing all these memes of, just putting down our kids and saying how terrible this is, how terrible this time is, instead of tapping into a more peaceful outlook. You
Mhm.
know, it's, oh my gosh, it's so inconvenient that my kids are at home. Okay, we can totally reframe that, because if we are constant, and it's just looking at the way you're thinking too. If you believe that you having to take your kids to the dentist is inconvenient when truly your job as a parent is to just take them. You're making it harder on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you also are kind of thinking that you deserve convenience too. And that's really hard. That's really hard for me to swallow. And so I refuse to swallow it. I refuse to be like, yeah, because if we view life as convenient or inconvenient, we're going to see basic tasks of figuring out this time, feeding our kids dinner, taking them to the dentist, taking them to the doctor as inconvenient. But that's life. Those are all part of life, right? This is just life right now. And we're
Mm-hmm.
needing to figure that out. And convenience makes us feel like our life is getting in the way of our life. And if we're viewing it through that lens, it's exhausting. And it's also, I think, emotionally taxing on your whole family. So I dropped that. Once I connected those dots and realized, you know what, I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to be married. I have these kids. I'm not going to let go of that dream. I'm not going to drop that dream because society tells me I shouldn't be enjoying this and that it should be hard. And I'm going to stay focused on what it is I actually want instead.
So I hear you saying, and this is a profound message, that convenience is not something we deserve,
Right.
and convenience is not something that you would encourage us to assume. So you're
Right.
basically saying our culture has told us not only do you deserve convenience, but you should assume convenience
Yes.
as opposed to life has challenges, ups, downs, twists, and turns. If something happens to be easy, hey, that's nice. But if it's not, that's okay too, because that's just part of life. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And I know that you, in your line of work, have had a lot of opportunity to look back at the end of people's lives and, um, at funerals and things like that. At the end of our days, we're not going to look back at our life and think very peacefully, man, that was convenient.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it sounds a little morbid to put it that way, and most moms don't appreciate the, like, look at the end of your life and what are you striving for? So I switched everything out because when I realized I didn't want to, at the end of my days, look back at my life and say, man, that was convenient. That brought me so much peace and satisfaction. I was like, what am I going to look back on? What are people going to say? And, I would hope that it would be kind things, true things, and they wouldn't have to make things up about what kind of
Mm,
person I
yes.
was.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that I wanted my life to be filled with the beautiful and the simple because those are the important things, and those are going to be the memories that I hope my kids have, and not
Mm-hmm.
that mom always felt so inconvenienced.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that my mom shared with me as our kids were, growing up, um, she said, don't wish away your child's life. She said, as
Yeah.
you were growing up, I wished you were walking. I wished you were in school. I wished you were, it's that always looking to the next season and wishing it was that next season as opposed to being in the moment. And how do I, like, oh, I wish my kid was driving so I didn't have to drive them everywhere or drive them to school, as opposed to this is a privilege to drive my kid to school. Look at this 15 minutes that we get in the car in order to have
Mm-hmm.
some random conversation or no conversation at all and just be in each other's presence and a presence, um, eh, yeah, all those seasons, right? Just wishing to the next thing. That's once again, it's about convenience and it's about not being present and enjoying our kids in the moment. I will tell you, and uh, our enjoying my kids, I did not enjoy them for the first 10 years of their, since I was a parent, because I was focused on being a pastor and workaholism. I was total workaholic. And for the last 12 plus years, I've really enjoyed my kids. Sometimes a lot less than enjoyable.
Ups and downs are normal. Ups and
Really
downs are
been some
normal.
challenges in there, but to go, God, I love them so much, and it's so, and my wife leads the way on all this. She's way ahead of me on all of this. I learned from her on all of it, but that's such a profound message. Inconvenience is not to be, we don't deserve it. And we shouldn't necessarily expect it. Okay, so that's one big way that you've opted out of some cultural norms in regard to parenting. Talk to me about some other cultural norms that you may, maybe normal for you, but for other parents it'd be like, what the heck? This is crazy. I don't even, give me some examples. Like obviously
Sure.
you're homeschooling. That's pretty
Yeah.
wacky for a lot of people. I know it's normal for you. That's super wacky. We know that. Okay, that's crazy. Now we're all doing it. That's funny. Anybody who's judged
Right.
homeschool, I love that. Anybody who's judged homeschoolers, you're all doing it now. And
Right.
because I'm connected to a lot of pastors on social media. How many pastors have judged televangelists, and now they're all televangelists. They
That's
all have to be.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's really funny. Okay, so
I,
what
I
other ways have you opted out?
well, we work for ourselves, and you don't think that that's so strange until you realize that we don't live for the weekend. I mean, what is a weekend to us? It just doesn't. I mean, we work 7 days a week. We work from sun up to sundown, but with lots of breaks in between. Um, and you don't know how strange that is until times like this, when everyone's like, "How do you homeschool your kids?" It has to be Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 3. And I know we talked about that the other day, but no, it doesn't actually. You can homeschool from like 6 to 9 p.m. if that's what suits your family. So we prioritize what's right for us. And for us, for many years, with 3 small children back to back, our kids, as of last week, are 6, 4, and 3. Sleep was a big priority. So we prioritize that. But we also have the option to do that because we work for ourselves, because we homeschool. We opt out of all schedules. In fact, we pretty much buck any sort of schedule. But living on Maui, that's really convenient because it's basically expected for people to be at least an hour late. So it really works out. We just embrace that. We love our kids. We actively, and everyone does. See, that's not opting out, but we have made a pact basically to never make fun of our kids. We're trying not to kind of step out of that because it never felt good to us growing up, coming from adults or other kids. And we don't want to teach them that it's okay to make fun of other people or be the butt of people's jokes. So we try
Mhm.
really hard. And you would be surprised at how hard that is, because the narrative is to make fun of your kids, to post memes about them, to why my kid is crying, and then to try to find camaraderie in that. It actually ends up making us feel yucky instead. So we have said, you know, to each their own, but that's not the way that we're going to
Mhm.
approach our children.
Sure.
We don't drink. And in the mommy wine culture, people are like, let's get together for wine. And I was like, or sparkling water, you know? But we made that decision not to drink. And you don't realize what a social leper you could become, if you will,
And
if you
why
don't drink.
and why don't you drink?
Well, there's alcoholism on my husband's side of the family, and it was never serving us. And I'm not saying he's an alcoholic or anything like that. We're just very aware of it.
Mhm.
And it played a role in our marriage that was not very nice. And so
Mm.
we decided that we looked at it and said, we don't have a lot of issues. We love each other so much. What are the issues? And we pared it down to a couple, and one of them was drinking. And it wasn't serving us, and we weren't our best when we did that. So we had bouts of like not drinking. When we met, neither one of us were drinking because we were on health journeys. And so it felt like we met the real other person
Ah,
at that time.
yeah.
And so I don't drink to support him in his decision. But also, I don't want to be hypocritical and be like, I'm just going to go out and drink with my mom friends because that's the message that we're constantly fed. Or, you know, all the whole mommy drinks or like you make mommy drink messages and stuff
Mhm.
are
Right.
just, it makes me physically ill, those things.
Mm.
So, but that's me personally, right? That's
Mhm.
me personally. But
Yeah.
that's because of the story, the narrative that we bring to the table, right?
Right.
Because that is a very toxic message in our particular household, given all
Right.
the details.
Right.
So,
Right.
but we opted out and we've stayed pretty firm on that. But there is an adjustment period. Friends fall off, or, you don't have that in common anymore. And then when that falls to the side and you realize maybe that was the only thing you had in common with that person,
Mhm.
it's very enlightening.
Mhm.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So fascinating. I grew up in a very conservative home where alcohol was not present. I think I saw my parents have some wine like maybe once or twice. And I didn't grow up with that as a part of my life or my college experience. And my wife had some negative experiences around drinking in high school. And so, not that I haven't had alcohol, it definitely, if I have half a margarita, I mean, I am like stabbing the plate trying to find the food. Like I'm that big of a lightweight. And I haven't had, I don't even remember the last time I had a drink because my wife and I have basically just said the downsides are so big than the upsides. And we've had multiple people surrounding us that have had DUIs, and
Hmm.
the downsides and I realized the coping mechanism that it is. And we are odd as well. We're out places and it's we I just I don't even think about having a drink. Like it's just not even part of my deal. But that's what that people just go to that automatically. It's such a powerful coping mechanism. I really see it as a coping mechanism. I understand you can enjoy the
I do too.
taste and all that kind of stuff, but and I have different coping mechanisms for myself. But anyway, yeah, we are in a similar situation, and it is really odd. It's really odd
Yeah.
to be the people that don't drink. Yeah, but there's a growing movement I
Right.
have seen of people that are sober.
Hmm. Hmm. To the point that there are dry bars, and to the point that there are zero proof menus at restaurants. And it's not unusual to go and ask for their zero proof menu, which basically means non alcoholic drinks. And I'm really glad you speak up and say that too. And I was really hesitant to speak up and say that we don't drink in our house. But, ever since I did, first of all, people wonder why. They want to know what the problem was,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and they make all sorts of assumptions, but that's okay. They can we're still just going to hold on to it. But by speaking up and announcing that we are not drinkers, I have had multiple moms come to me and say, "How did you get your husband to stop drinking?"
wow, wow.
And so I think by speaking up and saying that and sharing things with them, um, and them feeling safe, like they need an outlet. There are tons of
Hmm.
families out there who there's a drinking problem some way, somehow, or something that not necessarily is like um, a stereotypical drinking problem, or like what society kind of lumps in as a drinking
Right.
problem.
They're
Because if you
functioning. They're
Hollywood,
functioning.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but if it's a problem, it's a problem. It doesn't matter what level that
Right.
is.
Right.
And so they're needing to talk about it, but we're encouraged instead to talk about the wine or have a glass of wine and just relax about it or give into it or let them, have their space or whatever, or
Yeah.
that you don't necessarily have a problem. And the narrative just needs to change about that. And I think it starts with us gently stepping up and saying, I don't drink. And that
Hmm.
serves me and my family well.
Yeah. I love that. So fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. What are some other opt out ways now that we're really pushing buttons? Man, we just lost all the people that drink alcohol right now. They're all turned us
Well,
off.
that's a hard part too, is that I truly believe that my choices aren't a commentary on other people's.
That's true.
Um,
That's very true.
but I can't control whether or not they believe that. And, there are some choices that people make that I feel are a commentary on my life, and that's something I need to work on too. So,
Hmm.
not immune to that. Not going to
Yeah.
be a hypocrite about that. I've got my work to do.
Yeah. Do you eat meat?
Another way,
Do you eat meat?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, geez, you're killing people. You're killing small souls. Yes. Killing small souls.
But I also have a ton of vegan friends, right? And I support a lot of vegan businesses, but I just listen to my body. I was a vegetarian for 9 years. Does that
Okay. All right.
give
Okay.
me
All
some
right. So you've backslidden. You've
credit?
backslidden is what your problem
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Something like that. So another way I realized that we're really super odd, if you will, or opted out, is that my husband and I don't sleep in the same room. We actually have separate bedrooms. And
What are
this
you
is like
talking
a
about?
huge, I know, it's a huge
Your
trigger for
marriage
people.
is on the
Um,
rocks.
I know this is what people assume. And I swear, um, I have an episode dropping in a couple weeks about sex after babies, and you'll see that we're fine.
Oh my.
but but it's really interesting because people assume we have a problem or that we don't like each other, but the truth is we are honest with who we are. I'm a morning person, love waking up early. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. today naturally. My husband is a night owl. Sometimes he doesn't go to bed till 12:30 or 1. Can you imagine if we were forcing ourselves to sleep in the same bed? We're also bed sharers. Oh my gosh, look out. We share beds with our children. And we have 3 children, so we basically play musical beds, and we're fortunate. We have 4 beds to choose from, big beds to choose from, so we just kind of bounce back and forth to try to get everyone as settled as quickly as possible, because years ago, 6.5 years ago, we decided sleep was a priority, and we weren't going to conform to what that looks like for the rest of society.
Hmm.
It's like the kids are in their room, they're in their cribs, they're shut the door, lock it, whatever you have to do to separate out, and we're just not those people. So we bed share, although the kids do have the option to sleep in their own bed if they want. And then we also divide and conquer, and then are true to our own personalities. I'm a morning person, he's a night owl, and we're not going to force the other person to try to get good sleep with the light on while he reads or watches a movie
Hmm.
when I am in bed by 7:30.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You are really, I have read quite a few articles of the growing movement of couples sleeping in separate beds because of oftentimes snoring can be a huge issue,
Yeah.
or the schedules, like you said. My wife and I, we have a 3-bedroom home. Our daughter was at college, so she had a queen bed in her room, and I started sleeping in there because
Mhm.
I feel more comfortable with the tossing and turning, like all these things. My wife gets up at 4:30 to work out before, you know, work, and I get up around
Mhm.
6:30 or something like that. So we were sleeping that way for a couple months, and sometimes I would, go back to our bed. I don't know. It just whatever felt comfortable. It felt a little odd. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly. I feel like I'm a total loser, not sleeping in the
You're
same
not.
bed as my wife. But
You're not
then,
at all.
what happened, Lori Beth, is my daughter came home from college because of the coronavirus, and she said, "Get
Okay.
out of my bed. Go back to your own bed." And so now, sleeping back with my wife again, and it's fine. I enjoy
Oh.
it. It's all good. But yeah,
Yeah, it's very interesting though. I love that you admitted that too. And it's funny because it seems like a growing trend, but then I've read things that say that up to 45% of couples actually don't sleep in the same room, and that this is super common, that people just don't come out and say it.
I don't think people
So
want to
it
talk about
looks like
it.
it's a trend. Yeah,
Yeah,
mostly it feels like a trend of people coming out of the closet and saying,
I think so.
hey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when I was a kid, there was a season in life, I was an only child, and I actually had 2 bedrooms. I don't know why my parents did that, but I had 2 bedrooms in the same house. And so I would, in the middle of the night, if I wasn't feeling like I was sleeping well in one bed, I would go to the other bed. I don't know why. So I tell my wife that's one of the reasons why I do this.
Yeah, nice to have that option though. I mean, I'm trying to picture it. So anything outside of the norm of what we perceive to be what every single family in America is doing, it takes us a minute to wrap our minds around that. So as you were telling that story, all of a sudden I was like, what would I do with 2 rooms? Or is that necessary? Or what? And then you're like, if I wasn't sleeping well, you know what? If you were going to get good sleep and that means you bouncing between beds, awesome. Sleep, 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 sleep.
Yeah. Sleep is a huge value, yeah, in our family's home. And
Hmm.
and part of that is even opting out of the um, work hard, don't sleep kind of message that our
Yeah.
culture has given us. And I tell people, no, I've got to have 8 to 9 hours every night. Otherwise, I am not a
Mhm.
nice person. My wife, on the other hand, she can go with 5 to 7 and kind of keep going, but not me. I can't do it.
Yeah, well, it's nice that you're honoring the individuals in that too. And you're saying, this is what I need. She's saying, this is what I need. And then you're not forcing each other to fit this idea of what we think all American families are doing. Can you imagine? Do you know any couple that goes to bed at the exact same time and
Uh,
wakes up at the exact same time?
I don't know. I'm not in their bedroom, so I don't know. We seem to. That's what culture
Uh,
tells us they do, though.
Right, but and then so then that creates a lot of drama and turmoil, internal turmoil for moms who think, "Oh gosh, I'm not conforming to normal things that society does," or we're beating ourselves up over things like the fact that we're supposed to be sitting down at 5 p.m. to a homemade dinner every night as a family and having deep conversations without devices. And if you have anything outside of this perceived normal, then you're
Mhm.
beating yourself up because you're not able to conform to that. And the truth is, there is no cookie cutter family. There is
Mhm.
no standard, if you will. And I don't think that there should be. I think that the standard should be you should take care of yourself, you should take care of your family, show up in the moment, be present, figure out what it is you need. It's like you bouncing between beds or any of us bouncing between beds. It's like, this is what I need in the moment. I had a really long, hard day and I've got another one tomorrow. I need extra sleep. What is the best way for me to do that? And then answering that predicament in that moment rather than being like, oh, well, actually, culture says that I should just stick with this or I should forego sleep in order to do it because we tie up so much of our self worth and our self care. And that's a whole other topic that I'd love to expand on with you at a later point. But, that's another way we opt out is that we practice self care. This is kind of a newer thing in our marriage, but we do it and we do it
What
with
does that look
zero
like?
shame. It started off with me getting a cup of coffee after lunch no matter what. And I did not realize how much that I was putting off my own self-care and taking care of myself. But again, these are narratives that are fed to moms all the time. Oh, you can't go to the bathroom by yourself, oh, I haven't had a shower in a week. I take a shower now. I fell into that. I fell into that martyrdom mindset for a long time. And
Mm.
I was like, no, I created a new rule for my kids. When mommy is going to the bathroom, you will wait.
Mhm.
Mommy is taking a shower right now, and that's okay. But it all started off with that one cup of coffee after lunch, no matter what. And I spent an entire month working on that.
Mm.
And you would not believe the tears that I cried over, like, I deserve this cup of coffee. Or everyone was just so used to mommy just going, 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 going to the point that I was going to pee my pants because I would
Mm.
stop for potty breaks for everybody else but me,
Mm.
you know? Or we're bouncing. One day we were out running errands during this month. We were working on that. And I said, I'm getting a cup of coffee after lunch, no matter what. We'd had lunch in the car on the go. And I said, let's swing through like one coffee drive through that we have on the island, which is literally 3 minutes down the road if there's a light. And we should do that. And my husband's like, can't we just keep going, get going? Can't we just have it at home? I said, no, because when we get home, this one's going to melt because she needs a nap. This one's going to need to nurse. This one's going to need to do this. No, I am getting my coffee after lunch no matter what. And we pulled through that drive through. And by the time we pulled out and mommy had her coffee, that was a huge breakthrough moment right there. And that
Wow.
I was like, no, we are going to meet our needs when we need them. And why wouldn't we stop for me? Why?
Mhm.
Am I not worth the 6-minute loop out of our way to get
Mm.
something that I want and or need? So from that point on, we started recognizing that all of our family has needs and wants and started making more space for that. And it involves a lot of self-care. So we don't pressure the other person when they sit down to look at something on their phone or read or just zone out for a second. We're not
Mhm.
like, you need to get up and help me
Mhm.
clean the living room. You need to get up and help me cook the dishes. Cook the dishes. Do the dishes or cook, We you don't have to do that. We're recognizing that that person isn't lazy. And we're
Mhm.
making space for them to not be lazy too, right? We believe that the other person isn't being lazy. Instead, we believe that they're showing up and trying their best, and then we also believe that they're taking breaks when they need it, not when the other
Mm.
person says they need it.
It really sounds like you're believing the best in other people. Like I'm hearing that message coming through,
Yeah.
not only about your kids, but about your spouse and about others.
Yeah, I do with my whole being. And but that's
Mhm.
a family value that we have too, that we bring to the forefront. It's part of the secret sauce of my mom's group too. I believe, despite the fact that our beliefs, our core, and our values, and our politics and everything are so different, I believe wholeheartedly that every single one of my mom friends is showing up the best they can in that moment.
Mhm.
And making space for that, holding space for that, allows them to just be them and have their down days, their up days, all of that, and for us to work through that. But I really, 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 after lots of years of thinking about it, think that that is the secret sauce, is
Mm.
not just talking about holding that space, but actually holding that space.
Mhm. Mhm. Very empowering. Very empowering. All right. So I want to make sure that people can get more of what you are sharing. and the two places that seem the best for them to go. One is your podcast, Elevating Motherhood. What is that all about?
Yeah.
Can guys listen to it? Could I listen to?
For sure. There's
Okay,
a variety of topics. I definitely have decided to speak to moms. And so I'll say mom, but it could be parent, it could
sure,
be
sure,
anybody for sure. And yeah, one of my most downloaded episodes is actually Intro to CBD. And you definitely don't have to be a mom to listen to that
sure, sure.
episode of explanations of all this stuff. Yeah, for sure. I talk to moms, but it's for parents too. And it's everything from anxiety and parenting to different ideas. I do a lot of intro to Eastern medicines and ways of thinking, just for perspective. My whole goal is to provide soft perspective because I feel like we live in this just very rough, brash, message filled world. And I'm like, I'm fortunate enough to have been given soft perspective in a lot of different areas from a lot of loving people. And so I want to pass that on. So anytime we're talking about anything, including educating your kids at home during this time, my two most recent episodes are about that. It's not about providing a color coded to do list. It is about soft perspective and a way we can approach this and be gentle with ourselves and our children.
And is this a photo of you on the beach here on the image of Elevating Motherhood?
It is. It
Whoa,
is.
you guys have got to see elevatingmotherhood.com once again. And, a lot of people are showing their babies in the stomachs. They're inside. You're showing off your baby. It's a beautiful picture. And your daughter,
Thanks.
they're pointing up to you, is so cute. So you guys have got to check that out. And you have a community, a worldwide community of yayamamas.com. What
Yeah.
is that all about and how could that benefit listeners?
One of the wonderful things about Yaya Mamas is the guided journal section. In fact, I'll be talking about that this week on the podcast, and how that can change your life in just 5 minutes a day, and aligning your actions and your values, and figuring out what it is you need out of life. So there's a ton of topics on there, like alone time, finding me time, date night, connection, transitions, family fun, all of these things. So if you want more of something in your life, we have to be real with the fact that this takes time. It's not an overnight fix. So they're just these wonderful, short 5 minutes a day journal prompts so that you can spend an entire month thinking about something that you want more of in your life. So if you feel like you can even work on mom style. That was one of my favorites.
That's great.
But just all of these things, deep, not so deep, but just we're also having fun and doing it together because there's something really powerful about working on yourself in this sisterhood of other moms.
And you are an incredible writer. I mean, you write quite a bit, and that's
Mm.
why guided journaling is obviously flowing out of you. So people will enjoy your writing on the website. So, Lori Beth, Lori Beth, you are amazing. I love what you're bringing to the world. It is a soft, different perspective, and I think that's cool. I think that's resonating with people. It really is. So, thanks for sharing it with us today. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all the work that you're putting out too. I'm almost done with your book. And yeah, it is a must read for sure.